Hey guys, Lizardlea here for day 69 of Four Heavenly Beasts. So there is day 68. I am really hoping that I finish this page today, but no promises, because around somewhere from noon to 1:30 I'm going to be leaving to hang out with my family. God, those wings look so pretty though. Okay, well, the sooner I start this, the more likely I am to finish, so let's go.
Alright! This time we're going to talk about the anime 86. 86.
Yep.
Are you going to do your normal spiel?
So, first of all, I'm going to say that what I'm about to say might sound spoilery, but one of the reasons I really like this show, at least the first season especially, is that it,
Lays all the cards out on the table immediately?
well, not only lays all the cards out, but it moves at a very quick pace. Stuff that would take like 1 or 2 seasons for a normal show to bother to develop, even though it's apparent to the audience in episode 1 or 2, this thing moves through in like 1 episode or 2 episodes.
It's great.
Very
the pacing,
nice.
And the pacing always felt correct. I don't think there was a time when I was like, wow, that was too fast. I know I would say like, wow, that was fast. But
yeah, at least
for season 1, yeah, season 1 was amazing.
To be very clear here, there's 2 seasons. Season 1 is one of the best things I've watched in a while.
Yeah.
Season 2 is okay. It's not bad. It's above average.
Definitely disappointing compared to season 1.
Yeah, putting it right at it. Cause,
like, I would put 10 out of 10 for season 1.
Yeah.
And if I'd seen season 2 without season 1, I feel like season 2 would be pretty high, like 7 or 8. But because I'm comparing it to season 1, it's more like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah.
Because it's in comparison to, I know that they could do this. You know, like, I know how awesome season 1 was. And they just dropped the ball in comparison.
Well, I can break.
But the story completely changes. So,
well, I can break into why. It's
okay.
not even that, but I mean, it's the standard issue of this is based on a light novel or a manga. And like most light novels or mangas, I think it's one of those things where they wrote the first one and then it blew up and they're like, oh, I have to write more, and so they slowed the pace down because the first season feels like someone who's got a pretty cool idea for a story and is willing to highlight the big moments quickly and efficiently to make things get to where they need to go. And it works because you get all the dramatic impact of those moments without having to spend forever building up to them. And in fact, in some ways, it's even more dramatic because there's such short moments, which is a big theme of the whole thing. Because to get into the actual synopsis, basically, it's the future of some sort, and there's this unending war against the Imperium, I believe they're called, or something like that. I'll pull up my notes here, or the websites, or whatever. And they're this fallen country that had these arachnid-like robots, but they automated theirs, and then they got killed by their automated stuff, but their automated stuff is still going out and waging war on everyone else. So everyone's just trying to survive against this giant automated army. And so when you start the movie, or start the show, like in the very first few scenes, it's like, well, we defeated the Imperial, and once again, no one died in this war because there were no casualties. And you see that there's also like spider-like mechs fighting that look like they're made of paper practically. And of course, anyone who's remotely genre savvy goes, oh, okay, so there's humans in there, and that's the big secret, which is revealed to both the audience immediately, but then revealed to the other main protagonist, who's on the side of the people who aren't getting in robots immediately, which was nice. So the idea is there's this upper class of people living in these districts, and then there's the 86th district where the air quotes non-humans live because they're not considered people, so it's not a casualty when they die.
Yeah, you have to have like white hair and white eyes to be a part of this upper society.
Because they're all descended from this thing, all sorts of weird stuff. Obviously, this is, not new political commentary stuff, but it's handled very well because it doesn't dwell on melodrama like a lot of things do with like, oh my god, it's so horrible that they're doing this and they all want to kill the people who are like, it's a lot deeper, and like obviously these emotions still exist and these feelings, but it moves through them quickly and it handles it on a much deeper level. Like there's a big scene, again, this is not a huge spoiler, where the protagonist, so there's 2 protagonists. There's the boy Shin, who is the head of the 86, who you see in the show. He leads a team of like, I want to say 10 or 13 or 15.
I was thinking 13.
13 sounds right. And then there's Lena, who is their handler. So the upper class have handlers who will lead squads of 86 remotely. You don't ever get to see them. They have these weird like earpieces that allow them to constantly communicate and sort of see things from their view and other things like that.
And the non-humans have call signs. Like
Yeah.
one of them is, it's not Gravedigger, it's, what was his call sign? I know Laughing Fox was one of them.
Yeah, Laughing Fox.
That
The
was
main
my
guys
favorite.
is oh my god, it's
Grave Reaper? Reaper? It's just Reaper, isn't it?
I think it's Reaper, Undertaker.
Oh, I knew it was gonna be a wrestling thing.
Yeah. So he
So yes, Lena calls them Undertaker, Laughing Fox, and
Yeah.
they call her Handler 1.
and so very early on, Lena is like she's known since the beginning because like pretty much everyone who's in the military knows this dirty secret. Like the average citizen doesn't know that those things are being piloted by humans, sort of, but the military completely knows.
Yeah.
And so she, while teaching a brand new group of military students, because she's giving a speech, like straight up says, yeah, they've lied to you, everything in the books is a lie, we're putting these people from the 86th district in these things, and you're like, wow, they're doing this really early. And the response is, there's like a military police standing in the room, you're like, oh, this is going to go bad, this is going to be a thing, and not really. Like, she mentions that she's going to be punished, but it's not a big arc, it's not a huge thing, there's not a huge revolution, there's not, and that's, in a weird way, actually way more dystopian, because the kind of vibe you get from it is, you know, they probably reported to one of the generals that she's saying this stuff, and they probably went, yeah, you know, punish her, however, like, they probably, you know, she got in trouble or something, but it's not like it was a whipping or a
Like
beating.
she didn't even get demoted.
Yeah,
Like,
you know, there might have been something off-screen that happened, but it wasn't a big deal, because the truth is no one's going to fix it.
yeah,
No-
and no one cares enough to
Yeah.
try.
Yeah, and even if they believe them, they're not going to go out there and want to die.
Mhm.
Like, it's not like they're going to suddenly overthrow the military and rise up because very few people care to, and also there's this looming threat of annihilation.
Yeah, like even if there were like enough people to overthrow the government, you do have those robots and, you know, the whole war lurking over your heads as well. So it's just like, you know, the military doesn't care. And I don't think she was teaching that class. I think she walked in on someone else teaching and like busted in and, you know, thought she was
I
like
thought she
blowing
was
the cover.
invited or
Was
so-
she?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very big, like, you're not supposed to be saying this, but at the same time, again, while the students are like, oh my gosh, what's this? It's a very, I was very impressed that they decided to go that route, because it's not a route that most shows that are dealing with this kind of narrative will do. They're
Yeah.
usually not so nuanced as to be like, no, it could be a society that's just not going to change no matter what. Like, it's always, oh, I'm telling them the truth and this is the big thing, and oh my god, she told them the truth, it's the big thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, I feel like that's the second episode, maybe the first, where she drops
I
that
wanna
bomb.
say second.
Yeah, and it's, you know, doesn't really do much, because yeah, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, so one famous person who's a big deal spilled the beans to other people in the military, and maybe everyone she meets on the street. Oh well. And
Well, okay,
likewise,
so like she was famous because what? Her uncle was the
general.
general, and her
And her-
dad had died.
Well, her
in
dad
the
was also
war.
general who had died, yeah. And there's a lot of interesting nuance around that I'm not going to go into because I don't want to spoil this too much. And on top of it, like, the 86 themselves, Shin and all the other characters, who I'm not going to bother naming because there's a lot, you know, some of them really hate the District 1 people, and some of them are like, you know, I hate those of you that make me fight, but I still respect that the citizens are just citizens, and some of them were our friends, because, like, this has happened recently, that they've all been sent off, segregated, and put to the front lines. So it's way more nuanced of an... It's a way more nuanced look of just all of this stuff.
Mhm.
It's really not just the usual melodrama and, like, low-hanging fruit stuff for the first season. Well...
I mean, do we want to get into spoilers for the second season? Now?
I'm not going to get into spoilers directly, but I think I can, like, dance around it, which is just to say that the first season is really good, and it ends on an okay note. And then the second season feels like we got a second season, which, I mean, it was probably more, we got a second book
Mhm.
vibe. Which, granted, it did not resolve everything at the end of the first season, so clearly they planned on it, but it's suddenly like, oh, we're gonna lean on, like, let's say, this is what I've always heard, just like, your first album is always your best because you've had however many years that you've been dreaming about it.
Yeah, to
But then
perfect it.
yeah, so you've spent 20, 30 years working on this as your big break. and then you hit it. And now they want an album every 2 years.
Yeah.
And
so
suddenly
you
you're
have to try
leaning-
and hit the same spark in a fifth of the time.
Right, and suddenly you're leaning on tropes more, or common patterns, or whatever, because, like, I have a few more cool ideas, but I don't have chapters and chapters and chapters worth, so I guess we're going to lean on this and lean on... And it's not as bad, but whereas the first season feels like an incredibly tight, like, oh my god, this is cool, this is neat, this is amazing, this is well done, this is sad,
like
this is happy.
nothing was superfluous. Like, I don't know if I said that right.
Superfluous.
Thank you. Like, it felt like if you took any scene out, it would have been worse for that.
Yeah, and all the relationships are well handled and realistic. Whereas in the second one, it's kind of like, oh, we're doing this, oh, we're doing that, and there's still cool ideas in there, but they feel more slowly executed. And since they're dragging them out, we're back to the normal, like, we all know where this is going, let's go. And I would really rather learn more about A and B and C, but here's D, and we're gonna deal with D.
Yep.
And it's not bad, but it's not as good. And the core concept is still very, very interesting. It's kind of weird that certain things are happening that, like, you can kind of pick up on quickly, that a specific group of people seem to matter a lot to this plot, and they never explain that in the anime, at least.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still neat. There's a very big twist partway through that, again, you probably figure out way earlier. But they don't.
Season 1 or season 2?
Season 1, but they don't stretch it out for too long. Like, about the time you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. It's like the next episode where it's like, oh, yep, everyone found out. Cool. All right, we're not screwing around.
It's nice because, like, I know sometimes it is really interesting to, as the audience, know something the characters don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have to, like, just milk it, it's just frustrating.
Well, not only that, but it allows this to cover a lot of narrative ground. What a book or a show might cover in a much longer time, this covers very quickly, and it allows it to really build its world and its relationships by hitting the important beats and not spending any time on anything else, and it still works, you know? It doesn't feel like they're rushing it or they're speedrunning it. It feels like, yeah, that kind of is how it is, where, yeah, the months in between this scene and that scene, or weeks or days, don't matter, you know? The thing that mattered was this one big moment, and then... yeah, we know roughly what's been happening off screen from context clues of other characters and just from knowledge of how this stuff works. So, yeah, it's good. It's very, very good. I don't know if I want to, like, say much more, because...
I mean, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So, there's a robot.
Yep.
And his name is Fido.
Yep.
And guess who my favorite character is? If you guessed Fido, you guessed right. And guess what happens to my favorite characters? Hopefully you've been watching my channel for a while, because then you know the answer. But...
laser guided.
spoilers. He is a robot. And then the other thing I did want to mention was, visually, both seasons were great.
Yes.
Like, the fights were on point.
Yeah, both seasons have great fights, and especially, again, they don't do what you'd normally do, especially in the first season. They don't do what you'd normally do, where you'd expect a fight to be an entire episode. Sometimes it can literally be like a 30-second to a 2-minute scene tops,
and that's it.
And it's still very impactful, very impressive, very cool. And then the second season, for all of its faults, still has these amazing set-piece fight scenes that are just like, wow, that was really well done.
Oh, yeah.
And they managed to do, they do some incredibly tropey nonsense, especially in the second season, which is a shame, because it does take some of the, it takes some of the validity of the scene away, just because it's like, oh yeah, you did this and you did that when this should have happened and that should have happened, like, how dare you. But it doesn't change the fact that even though it's tropey, it's well executed tropey, and so it's still cool to watch, like Dragon Ball Z has some problems, but the fights are still cool, like,
as long as you take out the, 10 minutes of them screaming at each other while they're powering up.
Yeah.
But, so normally I don't really care too much for mecha stuff. Like, robots fighting isn't usually that exciting for me. I felt like this show did a really good job of it, especially because of the designs. Like, the spider mechs, they moved. Like, if you watch a slow motion video of how a spider jumps, they do that where they have their legs
Mhm.
really far ahead of them, and then they launch themselves forward. And so I'm assuming they actually looked at real spiders when they worked on this.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's really cool because that means they move realistically. Like, yes, they are robots, but they move in a way that they use that momentum that they've created properly. And at least one of them that I can remember had wires that he could fling out and like attach to a building.
They all
and,
had wires. At the
Okay,
start.
I only remember one of them really
Yeah, I know,
using
I
it
know.
in a scene that I like freaked out, major rewind because I was so excited about it. Like my favorite weapon from Zelda is the hook shot. If you can shoot something at the wall and then suddenly pull yourself to the wall or fling yourself to the wall, like that's super exciting to me.
Yes.
And yeah, so that was just really cool. I feel like the character in the second season that annoyed the heck out of me did not annoy me as much as the daughter from the last Ant-Man movie.
Oh yeah, not even close.
I still hated that character, but I wasn't as annoyed as I was with the daughter in Ant-Man. I wanted to strangle her.
I mean, the daughter in Ant-Man was terrible, but that's just because she's like not a character. Whereas the character in
86.
86 that Liz doesn't like, there are some very interesting things being done with her. It's just that when they're not doing those interesting things, they're doing very tropey, boring stuff. And it's like, you know, you managed to go an entire season skipping this part. Like, it was implied stuff like this was happening, and occasionally we dwell on it. But now you're just like doing entire episodes where like the B plot is just this kind of nonsense. And I really wish you wouldn't, because you've got so much more interesting stuff to explore. But I guess this is how you slow down the pace, because otherwise you'll be done in like 2 seasons, 3 seasons, which I would have been. I think it could have been an amazing 2 to 3 season story, just if it kept the pace that it had in the original, and it didn't pull certain nonsense that it already pulled. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. I will say, if you want to stop after season 1, you wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, you could.
But if you do want to watch season 2, it does wrap up almost everything. It wraps up a lot.
Well, it wraps up the arc that it opened. There's still the war is still ongoing.
Yeah,
is the short
of
of it.
course. But you know, like it's a happy ending. Like I was satisfied with the ending that they chose. I was happy with it.
I think it's gonna get another season.
Oh my gosh! If it does, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I know there's definitely more story because it ends the second season with here's this thing that I had again already kind of assumed would be a thing, but they don't ever get to deal with that because it's at the end of the season, which makes sense for a variety of reasons. This isn't quite as crazy as it sounds, but yeah.
You have to try and leave it open for another season. That's what you try to do.
Well, no, there's also a narrative arc that they introduced. Well, not a narrative arc, a narrative hook that they introduced quite early on that they haven't resolved, which is what they hint at with the end of the second season. Is yes, that thing that you probably guessed already is a thing, and that's the big thing, and
we're ending it here. Bye.
Yeah, like, and we'll see if we get to do that. Bye, or read our light novel. So, yeah, it was good. How much time we got left?
We have like a minute, maybe.
A minute, maybe. That's plenty of time for My Hero Academia.
I mean, if you want to get stabbed.
That's all trapped. So I do recommend 86 season 1 at the bare minimum. Like, if you're remotely into anime, you want to watch season 1. Like, it's very unique.
And
it's
as
very
someone who's not a huge fan of mecha stuff, yeah, you can totally enjoy it. Like, it's really good.
Yeah, because it's not about the mecha. Like,
Yeah,
in fact, the mecha take a very large backseat compared to just about any other mecha anime. Like,
Well, yeah, especially because you said some fights were 30 seconds long.
not even that. It's just that the mechs don't matter. They don't spend all this time going over the mechs. There's like one brief introduction scene of like the enemies and the mechs, and then like that's it. We're not going to spend like, oh my gosh, he's upgraded to the uber greater.
Yeah, thank gosh for that.
There's a little bit of that in season 2 for tropiness, but it's still not like full Gundam nonsense. Where it's like, oh no, I've lost my Gundam. Oh yay, I found a new one. We can sell another toy.
Did they ever make toys for this anime?
I doubt it. I mean, well, I'm sure there's figurines and whatnot. Maybe there are, but like Gundam.
It didn't
kits,
explode the way other anime have. So
well, like Gundam kits are huge, mecha kits are huge, and sell very well, to my understanding, because I'm one of the nerds who consumes them. So, yeah.
He doesn't buy them, you guys. He eats them.
Yes, must be one with the Gundam.
I want to be a Power Ranger. And that's where I'm going to end this episode.
Swords are weak.
And that is the end of For Heavenly Beasts Day 69. I got 2 hours and 51 minutes of footage. And I finished page 9! And I just knocked my hair clip off. Oh well. There we go. Another page down. Making progress. I'm so excited. Oh, it looks so good. Pick up my hair clip. There we go. So, I have a total of 348 hours and 47 minutes of footage that has gone into this. So, it's actually more than that, because when I flip it over and I thread my thread through the previous threads, I don't film that. Too hard to see, and it's just not worth it. There's the back if anybody wants to see it. The tiger looks ridiculous. I will just never care about how the back looks. I have a coworker, I don't remember which person it was, but she was saying, you know, like, oh yeah, my grandma used to cross stitch, I think it was, and the back always looked so beautiful, and I was like, everybody turned to look at me, and I was like, oh no, I don't care about the back, like, it'll look like trash, as long as the front looks good, that's all I care about. Like, I practice what I preach. So this, oh, can I don't know how to turn up the brightness on this. No, is it down? Is that the brightness? Nope, that made it darker. I legitimately, I don't know how to turn up the brightness, sorry. Oh, there we go, that's kind of okay. So that's how much I've done. Like, this is the actual pattern. And where's the midway point? There's the midway point. So his beak's right there, just below his beak. That is the absolute middle of the piece. If it'll, there we go. So, pull this guy up. Just below there. Right there. I'm so excited. Okay, I am just rambling. I apologize. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm in the middle again. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys next video.